Imagine a loud family gathering, laughter, clinking glasses, and lively conversations everywhere. But for you, it feels like you're behind a thick glass wall. Everything is close, but nothing truly reaches you. As you pour tea with a smile and politely nod, a black hole of pure loneliness gapes inside you. You're not a participant. You're a guest in your own life. Why did your adaptability, your good behavior, become a cage for your soul? Why is no one there for you when you're breaking inside, even though you were always there for everyone else? Society celebrates the good child as an ideal. But in psychology, we know, this silence isn't peace. It's the world's quietest cry for help. Welcome to Tom Lee Moy. Today, we're unraveling the painful secret of invisible children. Many people believe that a traumatized child must come from a broken home. They imagine loud screaming, visible bruises, or bitter poverty. But that's a dangerous misconception. The invisible child often grows up in a home that appears perfect on the outside. There's enough food, clothes are clean, and grades are good. Yet, behind this shiny facade lurks an abyss. We're talking about childhood emotional neglect, or CEN for short. Emotional neglect. The insidious thing about it is, it's not an act. It's not a slap in the face. It's an absence. It's what didn't happen. Renowned psychologist Dr. Janice Webb describes it in her work Running on Empty as the invisible force that has lifelong repercussions. She found that the void created by a lack of emotional mirroring leaves deeper wounds than active abuse. When a child cries and no one asks why, or when they triumph and no one is proud, they learn a cruel lesson. My feelings don't exist. And if my feelings don't matter, then I don't matter either. What does the life of an invisible child look like when they grow up? They often develop into a so-called people pleaser. For these individuals, another person's wish isn't a suggestion, it's a command. Their own needs, however, feel like an outrageous burden. It's an internal law. I'm only safe if everyone around me is satisfied. This creates a fascinating, yet sad paradox. These people possess a kind of social sixth sense. They are like highly sensitive weather stations for the emotions of others. They detect the slightest tremor in their boss's voice or the barely perceptible coldness in their partner's eyes. But while they can precisely predict the emotional storms of others, there is absolute radio silence within themselves. They are emotionally deaf to themselves. Let's talk about Min. Min is what you'd call a perfect citizen. He's the most diligent employee at the office, the husband who never forgets to take out the trash, the friend who always listens. One evening, Min came home with a high fever. His whole body was trembling, every breath hurt. But when his wife casually mentioned that she had a craving for a specific dish from a restaurant on the other side of town, Min said nothing. He didn't lie down. He grabbed his car keys and drove off. Why did he do that? Was it love? Not just. In Min's head, a quiet voice screamed, "If you say you're sick now, you'll be a burden. If you stop functioning, you're worthless." Min isn't afraid of an argument. He's afraid of insignificance. He doesn't exist as a person with his own pain, but only as a tool that makes life easier for others. He is a shadow that only becomes visible through the light of others' validation. Why does a child choose to become invisible? It's not a conscious decision, but an ingenious yet tragic survival mechanism. When parents are overwhelmed with their own lives, if they are sick, depressed, or constantly stressed, the child senses the instability of the family system. They instinctively realize, if I make demands now, everything will fall apart. So they become quiet. They learn not to cause problems to preserve the fragile peace. In neuroscience, we can see what happens in the brain. Imagine the limbic system, the emotional center of our brain, like a state-of-the-art weather station. Normally, This station has two sensors, one for the external weather and one for the internal weather. But in the invisible child, the internal sensor is defective. They have learned to channel all their energy into the external sensor to scan their parents' mood like a radar system. The child knows exactly when to hide, but they have no idea how they themselves feel. Psychologist John Bowlby described this in his attachment theory. He emphasized the importance of emotional mirroring. When a baby smiles and the mother smiles back, the child learns. I am seen, therefore I am. If this mirroring is consistently absent, the child's self-image remains empty. They develop an avoidant attachment. They learn that emotions are just complications that could jeopardize their connection to loved ones. Invisibility thus becomes a shield behind which the true self slowly withers. We need to speak a bitter truth here. The admiration you received as a child for your rationality and independence was often a poisoned gift. In psychology, we call this parentification. It means that the roles were reversed. It wasn't the parents who emotionally held the child. Instead, the child had to become the emotional anchor for the adults. They learned to dry their mother's tears, or manage their father's anger, even before they could tie their own shoes. But be careful. Don't romanticize this early maturity. It's not true strength. It's a survival strategy born of sheer necessity. Those who were only loved as children when they performed continue this pattern as adults. This is the greatest danger. You unconsciously attract partners or friends who only love you for your utility. People who drain your helpfulness but disappear as soon as you are weak yourself. If you don't break this dynamic, you'll remain trapped in an eternal cycle where you have to buy love through self-sacrifice. Please understand this. Your so-called maturity was actually the loss of your childhood. Imagine a tree growing deep in the shadow of a huge mountain. It's thin, almost fragile, and its branches bend in unnatural directions just to catch that one tiny ray of sunlight that flashes over the rocks for a moment. This tree has forgotten what it's like to simply sway in the wind. It only knows the struggle for a little light. The invisible child within you is that tree. For years, you've bent over backward to find tiny glimmers of recognition. But listen closely to me now. The light of the sun isn't a reward for your performance. It's not a prize for your good behavior or your usefulness. The sun shines because it's its nature, and you deserve love, warmth, and security simply because you exist in this world. Not for what you do, but for who you are. It's time to stop fighting. Allow the exhausted child within you to finally sit down and rest. You no longer have to save the world to have a place in it. You are allowed to simply exist. If you recognized yourself in Min's story, then you know now. You are not alone. Let's make a sign. Write a simple period, or leave a blue heart in the comments, as a symbol of your silent journey. Subscribe to Tam Lee Moy, and become part of our community, where we walk the path of healing together. Become a member to gain deeper insights and support for your inner child. And if you're ready for the next step, check out our next video. How to set healthy boundaries with toxic parents. Your journey back to yourself starts right here